Okay, good afternoon. During the last couple of hours, I haven't worked much, besides building this art show, which of course is referencing both the A.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, which I reference a lot, and also the gate, the closed gate, and the Minotaur, or the Satan, whatever you want to call it, or the Kruv, that the Kruv in Shar Gan Eden, the gate of heaven is guarded by Kruvim, cherubs, according to Genesis. So, but curiosity is now taken hold of me, and these are, by the way, the homemade petri dish with the homebrew agar. I want the moisture to evaporate, so I created small holes in the cover. But after the moisture will evaporate, I will cover it with new what's the name of this thin sheet, nylon, like thin elastic nylon. Anyway, I'm now very curious to see what's inside the 7 days old petri dishes that I've described previously today, and we will start with the one which is most has the greatest visibility. And as I said, this is due to the fact that it's not 100% airtight, but it's close to 100% airtight. But I mean, the fact that it's not 100%. There are still like small, tiny holes. Maybe you can see them here, which allow to the moisture to evaporate. So what we see here is the I don't know if it's possible to, if it's clear to you, but it's the base material is black oil paint, which was already dried by the time I prepared the petri dish. I used the petri dishes for. I had many of those that just from 2 years ago, that when I bought the laboratory stuff, when I started to conduct experiments, and I didn't have much to do with it. So lately, when I picked up art, and especially oil painting, I've used it for working. Just like miniature palettes for mixing with different colors, and mixing with the different mediums, and later, and now I understand it was a mistake, because actually there are much more efficient way to do it, and these are actually, I can buy more. But if I have money, I have nothing right now. For any expense, I need to ask my mother for money, which is very sad. But the country wants me, the state of Israel wants me to be as poor as possible. They want the boot to be on my face all the time. They want me to be their slave, as usual. And then for that purpose, they insist on portraying me as a helpless little child that should be taken care of by the government. And of course, the government officials should receive money from the international community in order to sponsor this helpless robot, because he's so stupid, he cannot handle money, and he doesn't understand anything at all, and he needs to be told to do things like buy shoes, or I don't know, walk somewhere, because he's barely got any consciousness, and certainly cannot maintain his own day-to-day abilities. And they keep singing this song. Even when the robot is conducting research, well-documented research in front of all the world, that already I think smashed the basics, the tenets of, I think, if the current list is correct, of certain physics, biology, chemistry, computer sciences, of course, evolution of mankind, of course, history, of course, paleontology, for certain astronomy, for certain cosmology. By the time I'll finish my research, not much will be left from, the tenets of the science of humanity, the entire scientific project of humanity, and yet. I'm still being treated like a piece of garbage by the neighbors that shout at me all the time and shouting commands. because I live in hell. Anyway, nothing is new. So let's continue with science. So what we have in this petri dish is, as I said, the oil. Because I use those petri dishes, I mean, I have many of them like covered. I had many of them covered with like oil, dried oil colors. It's very difficult to remove, but I have done it. I mean, a couple of times during the last days because I needed the dishes clean. But this one was, I mean, on purpose was not clean because I wanted the black goo, the black oil paint. I mean, it's not. I mean, I almost never, as any oil painter, almost never use just oil paint in itself. I mein, when you paint using, I mean, in art there are no rules. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it's very difficult to work with cool oil paints. Besides, I mean, there are many kinds. I mean, besides the ones that are very, very like liquid in nature. I mean, almost all of them require mixing with some kind of medium, and like it's there. I mean, there's. But this is not an art lecture. I mean, I don't think that I ever conducted one in the YouTube stage, but I've certainly conducted ones. I mean, lectures regarding art, my own art and art in general, and in the Twitter stage and the Facebook stage and in my private Evernote account. So if someone someone wishes to wish to like hear my views on like philosophy of art and art in general, and my own views regarding art and my practices, and even practical issues like how, I mean, how can, what techniques did I find or invented in order to create modern paintings that will simulate or emulate Paleolithic cave paintings, but of course with like modern twist. So if anyone is interested in that, I can conduct those as well in the YouTube stage. But I mean, currently, I mean, I think that my focus is both. I mean, as usual, plea to the world to rescue me and my daughters from the Nazi prison, and also my scientific project of replacing humanity with synthetic counterparts. So regarding that, let's continue. I don't know if you can see the texture, which, I mean, there is like a texture that is very similar to what you can see in all dried petri dishes that contain germs, which is amazing, because how exactly is it possible? I don't know. We'll soon find out. What you can also see here in this slide is a bunch of stuff. I mean, besides the oil that was already there, I placed there, a little bit of semen of like the bot juice, the famous bot juice. I also placed a little bit of I didn't place like intentionally biological material, but I have. I now remember that I put like a drop of 2 of water that I know were contaminated. In general, the water in this place is contaminated with all sorts of viruses and germs, because, I mean, boys will be boys. I mean, you know, the Shabak, they have all sorts of like funny shenanigans. So the water in where I live is always, I mean, you can always find so many surprises, like, SARS, COVID. So for some time, although, I mean, more serious stuff like STDs, they like to see, they like to test my immunity to those as well. So, I mean, I got used to that, boys, as I said, boys will be boys. So I placed a drop of 2 of this water that I knew that contains the germs and viruses. But as I said, luckily, most of it evaporated, so we can see what's inside very well. Which it wasn't the case in other similar petri dishes, which perhaps I will deal with later today, if this one will be successful. And we can see what I thought was silicone, but it's actually, it's not silicone actually. I don't know what it's called Super 7. It's some kind of polymer which looks like silicone, but I mean, when I bought it in the store, I remember that I asked the guy, like, it was maybe Home Depot or something like that, or Ace, and I asked him for silicone in that does not require like a silicone, like there is like an appliance which is called the gun, like silicone gun, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, and I don't have one of these. I didn't have one when I bought it, when I lived in my own apartment, not like now that I live in my mother's apartment, but so he handed me this, this thing, but, so I don't even know if it's silicone, but it looks like silicone. It's transparent, and the interesting stuff is that it changed its very noticeably changed its colors. Its color. I mean, there are two like big drops, like or like big chunks of silicone or polymer, and they noticeably changed their color from transparent to different shades of gold, I would say. One is like the color of amber, I would say, like, and one is more like, I would say, gold. Of course, it doesn't mean that the Nihilos changed to be gold. I wish they did, but I don't think it's the case, because why should they? There is no gold here inside this petri dish, and also I did not try and to represent like gold in any symbolic way, and I don't even know how to represent gold in a symbolic way. If anyone has like an idea, so I'll be glad if you share it, because I believe, and strongly believe, and I'm working on proving it as well, even right now, that the Nihilos, the nanobots, they certainly understand and use symbolic language. So one of my main like research subjects right now is to understand, to communicate with them. It's kind of like a first contact, and for that I need to. I'm like, one of the things that it's interesting to sort of to think about, and it's also could have tremendous practical implications. Is how do you represent elements, both elements and molecules. But let's start with elements. Like, how can you represent gold? I mean, like, there is like the classic representation of like an atom with the proton in the middle and the electrons like around it. But I mean, it's kind of like a representation. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really look like that. It doesn't really look like anything at all. So there's a question of representation here, and I would certainly glad to have ideas. I guess it should. I mean, the representation, I guess, needs to consist of, in some way, of the subatomic particles, at least the protons, electrons, and neutrons, maybe even smaller than that. I don't know, but even this is not certain. I mean, if we, like 200 years ago, or 300 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, if you ask some human, how to represent gold, and they knew what's gold, so they would have given you a different answer than the one that consists of the voodoo stuff regarding protons and electrons, correct? So it's not such an easy question. Anyway, I would like to take a look. As I said, it's difficult for me to understand like what if material that I placed inside the petri dishes or the slides changed its nature, which is completely possible, and because, as I said before, I believe the nanobots are kind of like alchemists, and I think that we have seen a little bit of evidence on that. But how can I tell? How can I tell if something is gold or, I don't know, anything else? I'm not a chemist, so that's also an open question, a practical one, which I will glad to have like ideas. But that's not my main. The long like rods you see here, they're just like toothpicks, wooden toothpicks. I don't know why I placed there. I don't know what I was thinking. And also we have a little bit of aluminum foil, like drops of aluminum foil inside it. So what I'm going to do now is open this thing, and then take like a drop using my finger of the black goo and smear it on the slide. And for the first time now, I will do something, new, and I will use, I don't have slides. I ordered for Amazon, but I don't have like proper glass slides. So I'm using pieces of old covers of CD-ROMs that I cut. And usually now I've used sellotape, which is kind of like a thin duct tape, transparent duct tape. This one. To cover the samples, but actually I decided now for the first time I will use the more traditional way of placing something hard or above it, which will the only thing that I have that I currently have in my possession is just another piece of this CD-ROM cover, and the disadvantage is that it's bruised as like the rest of the plastic, which means, and you can certainly see the bruises, and it's not ideal, but although it's kind of thick. Generally, what is used is like in laboratories. What they use is like very thin, very thin layers of glass, square thin layers of glass. But I will use this one because I want, for this experiment, it's important to me that I will not get the kind of like the patterns that always exist on the sellotape itself, and also I want it to be as much as possible on the same level. So it will be something like that. And I will use sellotape just to glue them one to each other. Normally if you use like proper material, which is a glass, relatively thick glass as the bottom layer, and the thin glass above, they stick by itself, because the upper layer is very thin, so it's and usually the material that you place contains a little bit of liquid, so it sticks by itself. But it's not, I can't, it will not happen probably right in this case, so I'll be using sellotape, and we'll see how it goes. I will do everything in front of your eyes, which will be a little bit cumbersome and not like optimal, it's not the most efficient way to produce a video, but I want to be as transparent as possible. I will not use liquid as a medium. I will just take a little smear with my finger and smear it on the plastic. If I see that it's too viscous and it's too hard, I will use. Perhaps I'll mix it with a medium, but I will not use water, since I don't want. I will use instead of water. I will use actually I will use my pee. I have because it's sterile, and or possibly I'll use a little drop of more semen juice, which is also as we know sterile and contain more bots, but shouldn't be an issue. But let's see if we can just do with the material as it is. And okay, so here we go. It's incredibly sticky because I sealed the petri dish. Consists of two glass dishes. That one is smaller than the other, and you need like a thick duct tape. I've done it with a thick duct tape, which is adhesive from both sides. It's called dutz in Hebrew, the double side. But it's kind of it sticks to anywhere. It's super sticky. So no, it's okay. So I'll just use my bare hands, and later I just go to wash my hands before we continue. You can see the neighbors coughing and shouting. It's my normal soundtrack. That's why I use earplugs. Practically all day long, because the neighbors just keep doing their stuff, humming and drumming. I mean, it's crazy, but that's the hell that I live in. I mean, it's like that. It's noise all around the clock, and all sorts of like psychological conditioning. I don't know what's the theory. The theory is mainly violence. Israel is a Nazi state. If by chance this is the first video that you ever watch of me, and you ask what the Israelis actually want from you and why do they keep you as like prisoner of war in subhuman conditions, so the answer is the bot use. They want the bots because they use it for a lot of purposes, and they know about it long ago, and they hid it for me, and I discovered it myself after a lot of a long journey that was well documented, but I cannot speak about it like in one minute. But anyway, they want the juice, and since in the last year I fail, I'm deliberately failing to supply them the juice that they want, that comes from my body. They torture me in more and more severe ways. But even before that, they torture me. I mean, there is like a life of abuse behind me by Israeli Shabak and other security branches. Okay, and then the lid opened like in A.G. Wells, Jeff Wayne, A.G. Wells, World. So it's opened, and I'll go wash my hands, and then I'll be back just in 2 minutes. But I want to wash my hands before we continue. Okay. Save it for later, the tool, and I'll clean my hands with a piece of cloth, and now with tissue. I also prepare just small pieces of sellotape in advance, so my hands will be so I'll have like free hands later. Just a second. It's not the most hygienic, and certainly these are not perfect research practices, but for this purpose, I only use the sellotape to stick the two like slides from above and below. And the slides, the pieces of slides themselves, I use like for the pieces of slides themselves, I actually cleaned it with alcohol pads and dried them as rigorously as possible. What you hear now is the neighbors that they always open their mouth. The mouth is constantly open. They give you messages like all sorts of kind of incredibly sophisticated ideas that the most prolific and creative writers in the Shabak thought about, and they send. The Shabak, the writers, they send the processed sheet to the operators, and the operator chew the sheet and sheet it again, and the recycled sheet is then sent using the UHF chip, which they've got like every scarecrow, or I call them puchlatsim, like taxidermies. Every human taxidermy in the country, the state is full of them. So basically all the neighbors are taxidermies, like human taxidermies. So they have all got the UHF chip in their ear. So the operator sends the recycled sheet, like the second-hand sheet, processed sheet, to the human taxidermies, and then the human taxidermies is chewing the sheet for the third time, and then it grabs it again. And when the processed sheet is processed for the third time, then they send it to me like via sound waves, like they shout it from wherever they are in the buildings. So I will be able to receive this exquisite delicatesse of messages. It's always something incredibly sophisticated and both practical and intimidating, but also gentle and diplomatic. It's got all the qualities of that are known. Of the specific qualities of the Shabak. The elegance and the mannerism of retarded Tyrannosaurus Rex. Or perhaps I will say a rabid, I wouldn't say dog, because dogs are far nicer than them, but like rabid hyena or something like that. Think about the elegance of these creatures. This is what This is kind of thing that you can expect from this human taxidermies of the Shabak. But that's my world. Okay, so let's let's do some science now that our hands are clean. I'll try to put the phone in a more place the phone in a more no, it's lesser than ideal. Let's just a second. I want this to be as maybe you can use this one like this. Just a second. No. Okay. Okay, fine. So this is the black goo. There's so much to choose from. I am always tempted to take too much material, and my slides are always busy, and sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's just too messy. So this time I'll try to pick a small sample using my finger alone. Maybe I'll take okay. So again, I took more than I wanted, but anyway, let's keep it somewhat airtight. Let's place a slide on it, a big slide on it. Just a moment. I mean, maybe just a nylon is enough, I guess. Okay. Okay, some material is going to be wasted, but which is lamentable, but anyway, let's temporarily put it on another slide, and later we'll think about what's going to actually happen with that. Yep, so let's place it here. And now I'll wash my hands. I mean, not wash, but just a little bit of clean my hands. Maybe I will actually use an alcohol pad, like a real person that is doing science or even just simple laboratory work. Okay. Now. Okay. Now we'll use the sellotape. This is actually too broad. You will hear the reverse sound. It's something that you can hear like in this apartment or on any other apartment where I live like all day long. And the reason is that it's illegal to use the honk of the car in urban places. And sometimes the Shabak doesn't really care about this law, but in general they need to respect this law, or they decided internally to respect this law. So they have so they've installed in all the cars that belong to people that are in the Shabak or in any other Israeli agency, they have the reverse alarm is installed, which is usually it's all, as you know, it's installed only on like big trucks, but it's installed in every car, even like small private cars that belong to them, because it's important for them to be able to produce this reverse sound, which is in many cases it's like an alternative to the honk, which means something like beware, I'm here, I exist. If it sounds incredibly like primitive, it's because it's exactly what it is. I mean, these are like, they are basically animals. Anyway, as a result, I mean, I hear this like reverse sound all day long, and it's just part of my life. Okay, I was tempted to put a little bit, I think, too much material, because I've created stains. I'm using a cheap microscope, but not very cheap, but a Bresser microscope, which is kind of, I mean, it's just a regular, you know, backlight microscope of the simplest type. So I mean, if the stain is too thick, like we have, you see, as we have here, I mean, we have here black stains which are like too dense, and I mean, it will be, nothing will be seen in the microscope, I mean, above those parts. It should be somehow, I mean, somewhat transparent, in order to, I mean, for the details to be picked, because again, the light comes from below. I wish I had better microscope, but I mean, currently, I mean, it is what it is. Let's hope that I will have some money in the future. Now, we continue. By the way, you can ask if the Israelis are taking this from you all your life, and it's worthless. I mean, it's priceless, not worthless. I mean, it's worth like billions to them. Like, how come that you don't have money at all? And of course, they want me to be their slave. They want me to be poor and helpless. And for that, they tell like foreign intelligence agencies that I'm completely like incapable of doing any work. And I mean, like, even though I'm 39 years old, I'm like, I have to be dependent on like other like grown-ups, because I cannot like manage to do anything, no matter what kind of, I mean, it doesn't matter like how I mean, respected is my like academic credentials, which is in the top of Israel, like the top bachelor degree that you can do in Israel, or like military experience, professional experience. It doesn't matter. The story is the same. He is he's a pervert and crude and barbaric. He came from another planet, and they can't even light fire by themselves. and so that's why we need to take care of him, and of course put him like in jail all his life, so he won't hurt himself or other human beings. And they keep iterating this story while they witness, and it's not a new thing. It's a couple of weeks now that while they witness themselves in YouTube, they witnessed me conducting researches, like experiments that, as I said before, shatter the tenets of almost every like scientific branch that is known to mankind. But yet, I mean, that's what they do, because they are thieves and rapists and murderers and scum of the earth. And Israel is the worst state in the world, and it's guaranteed. It's the worst place in the planet Earth. It's not a democracy, and it's not close to be democracy. It's a totalitarian dictatorship, and the issue is even not with the government, which is horrible, but it's not even the issue. The issue is with the people. These are the worst people that ever existed, ever. Okay, we will use the magnifications that are available to me are 16 here, and multiplied by 4, 10, or 60. So we'll use, obviously we'll start with the 4x times 16, 4, which is 64, a magnification of 64, and the maximum is 1000, or little less than 1000, even though you can magnify by factor of 1.5 if you use the upper this one here, the upper tube, but it's difficult to focus when this is when I use it, so I find it better to use to not using it. So yes, I've placed too much material, and we have big black stains, which is lamentable, but we can still see a lot of interesting stuff. And I mean, it's up to you to decide whether it's like these were like living organism or not. Just a second, I will try to search for something that is more like relatively interesting. And just a second. So we might be having like No, I'm beginning to say maybe it's really problematic to use the maximum magnification because of the width of the upper slide, but we can see some stuff here, but it's difficult, even though it's difficult to use the maximum magnification, which is 60, almost 1000 in any case. But I know that you are all very like anxious to actually join me in together. So let's just, without further ado, let's prepare the let's prepare the camera. It's not it will be a little cumbersome, but I mean, we'll do it. I'll do it by just using, temporarily gluing the lens to the iPhone with like children clay. It's called plastilina in Hebrew. This thing. So if I switch side, the video will be interrupted. Just let's see. Okay, so I cannot switch like flip the camera without stopping the video. So I guess that's what I'll do. So and now a new video.